All right, let's just dive right in. Today's explainer is all about source material that has the sheer power to completely rewire how we look at our own potential. We are unpacking the incredibly intense, raw, and unapologetic philosophy of David Goggins when it comes to self-improvement and mental toughness. And look, this isn't your everyday feel-good motivational stuff. We're getting into the mindset of a guy who took himself from a 300-pound, deeply insecure man with learning disabilities and transformed into literally one of the most resilient humans on the planet. Let's figure out exactly how he forged this unbreakable mental toolbox.
So, are you living at only 40% of your capability? Yeah, it's a pretty jarring question, right? But that idea really frames everything we're talking about today. The core argument here is that humanity, as a whole, is leaving massive amounts of potential completely untapped simply because we are fundamentally wired to avoid suffering. We actually cap our own success. So the big question is, how do we break past that 40%?
Well, this brings us to our first major hurdle, the trap of mediocrity, and basically our absolute addiction to comfort.
There's this quote that really hits the nail on the head. Mediocrity feels so good, we want to be the best amongst the average people. Think about that for a second. It's a massive psychological trap. If you're in a room with 10 completely average people and you happen to be the best of that specific bunch, boom, your ego inflates. You suddenly think you're crushing it. We naturally judge ourselves against the mediocre because it gives us this awesome, false sense of achievement without demanding any real grueling effort.
And this is exactly why we naturally flock to mediocre people. They validate our excuses. Let's be real, we all absolutely love friends who hand us a get-out-of-jail-free card when we just want to lounge on the couch in sweatpants. It's warm, it's cozy, it's easy. But uncommon people? The ones out there actually challenging their weaknesses? They terrify us. These are the folks waking up at 3:30 in the morning telling you to get your gear on. We purposely avoid them because being around the uncommon makes us painfully aware of our own shortcomings.
So how do we break out of that comfort zone? We use what's called the accountability mirror.
Now, the accountability mirror isn't just some clever metaphor. It is a brutal, daily practice of facing yourself and completely stripping away those kind, polite excuses. Society loves finding a gentle way to spin things. But if you're out of shape or lazy or just falling behind in life, you cannot use soft words to describe it. You literally have to look in the mirror and call yourself exactly what you are. The conversation with yourself has to become brutally honest if you ever want to actually fix the problem. Because, as the material points out, I'd rather you hate me and get better than like me and stay the same. Breaking out of your comfort zone is never about being polite. It's just not. We see friends and family settle for less all the time. Maybe they gain weight or stay in a rut, mostly because we're too scared of upsetting them with the truth. But true accountability means forcing necessary and often really painful growth over temporary comfort.
Which leads us to the next big step, emptying the rucksack and dropping all that dead weight we carry around.
If you're not familiar, in the military, a rucksack is this incredibly heavy pack loaded with your radio, food, water, all your gear. It's a perfect, striking metaphor for the invisible backpack we all haul around in everyday civilian life. Goggins talks about his own rucksack being packed with severe physical abuse from his father, learning disabilities, a terrible stutter, deep insecurities, the whole shebang. We all have one of these backpacks, and it is heavily loaded with the emotional gear and trauma from our past that literally weighs us down every single day.
So you've got to unpack it. First off, you have to actually acknowledge that past trauma, but here is the real tough pill to swallow: no one is coming to save you. Nobody. Fixing the damage is 100% your responsibility. It honestly doesn't matter if it wasn't fair or if someone else caused your trauma. If you stay stuck in a woe-is-me mentality, holding on to those past disappointments, you guarantee that as the sun rises and sets, you will be in the exact same spot tomorrow. You have to drop that entitled mindset entirely.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the core mechanism of all this, the 40% rule, and how we actually test our limits.
40%. Just let that number sink in for a second. According to the philosophy we're exploring, 40% represents the exact moment your brain screams at you that you are completely exhausted, in pain, and you absolutely need to quit. But here's the crazy part. When your brain tells you you're done, you are actually only at 40% of your true capacity.
That means there is a massive 60% of untapped potential, just locked away by our own survival instincts. Think about that. Most of us live our entire lives in that safe, tiny 40% bubble, completely oblivious to this vast, incredible world of capability waiting on the other side of our perceived limits.
There's a really fascinating metaphor for this in the source material. Think of a sports car that can easily hit 130 miles per hour, but the factory slaps a governor on the engine that caps it at 91. You hit 91, the car starts shaking, it pulls back, and it just refuses to go any faster to protect itself. Well, your mind is that exact same factory governor. It has a major tactical advantage over you because it knows every single one of your deep, dark insecurities, and it pushes those exact buttons to make you retreat back to safety.
So how in the world do we regain the tactical advantage over our own brains? You literally have to hijack that survival mechanism. When that intense fight or flight feeling hits at 40%, you have to consciously step back and say, okay, let me just push to 45%. You force your brain to stick around and answer the hard questions instead of just running away to comfort. Do that enough times, and you literally blow the circuit breaker on your mind's perceived limits, forcing your entire system to adjust to a new normal.
But what happens once you start tapping into that extra 60%? That brings us to civilized versus savage mentalities.
See, once you break through, you face a brand new danger: success itself. The civilized mindset is all about seeking comfort. It wants the early retirement, the pat on the back, the feeling of, hey, I'm good, I made it. But a savage mentality, that relies on the idea of constantly arriving. It means staying callous to pain and outworking the crowd every single day. If you reach the top of one mountain, you can't just sit there. You have to instantly start building a new one so you don't lose your edge.
There's a raw line from the text that goes, the worst thing that could ever happen to any human being is they become civilized. And it makes total sense. That yearning for comfort, the urge to finally kick back and relax after achieving something, is the ultimate enemy of an unbreakable mind. Because the second you stop challenging the machine, you get rusty.
There's actually a really funny yet profound anecdote about a bulldog to highlight this. This dog is 6 years old, has her own bowl, and a fridge full of food, basically living the absolute dream. But every time she eats, she buries her face in the bowl and attacks her meals like there are 20 other puppies actively trying to steal it from her. She never outgrew the hunger. And that is exactly the level of permanent, fierce intensity you need to succeed. You have to act like everything is on the line every single day.
All right, so how do we put all this into practice? Let's talk about picking up the shovel.
Look, most folks are out there looking for the 4-lane highway. You know, the easy, well-paved route, mapped out with rest stops and instant gratification. But any results you get on that highway, they're temporary. If you want permanent results, the only choice is the shovel. It requires hard, grueling labor that leaves actual calluses on your hands and on your brain. It's an isolated, lonely path where you leave normal completely behind.
So how do you actually start digging? You use the 10% better rule. This is super actionable. Greatness isn't some overnight magic trick. It's a series of small, hard-fought daily victories. The goal is simply be 10% better than you were last week. If you ran 30 miles, push it to 33. If you swam 500 meters, force out 550. And honestly, if you're completely sedentary right now, your 10% is literally just getting off the couch. It's about finding yourself by intentionally putting challenges in your own way.
We all want a shortcut, for sure. But the cold, hard truth we've learned today is that there is no trick, there's no magic potion, and there is no easy way out. We look at highly successful people and assume they have some secret formula, mainly because we've shackled our own minds with limits. You've got to stop capping your own success. The journey to becoming the uncommon among the uncommon is lonely. It takes a level of dedication that means giving up a lot of things other people enjoy.
We've covered a ton of incredible ground in today's explainer, from emptying out that heavy rucksack to blowing past that 40% governor in your mind. But you know, all this knowledge doesn't mean a thing without accountability. So I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. As you look in the mirror today, what is your excuse for not being better? Is it too hot out, too cold? Did somebody do you wrong? Or are you just letting mediocrity feel a little too good? The mirror is waiting. It's time to pick up the shovel. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.